Hey, what's good? You probably expected to hear a different voice here, right? Well, MC is busy in the newsroom getting stories together for next week's return of the Negro News Minute. In the meantime, he asked me to dig in the crates and see what I could find. And for those of you wondering, yes, I am black. Anywho, I stumbled across this conversation from July of last year with Jamie Broadnax of Blackgirlnerds. MC will tell you all about her. He actually introduces her twice. Well, you'll hear what I mean. Ha ha ha. Go to thevocalminorityReport.com/donate and consider supporting the movement. Here's the show.
All right, people. Very excited to have a new sponsor. This episode, we have Loot Crate. Now, if you listen to podcasts, I'm sure you've heard of Loot Crate, but for those of you who don't or you need a reminder, let me tell you what Loot Crate is. Loot Crate is a monthly mystery crate that delivers the best in geek plus gaming gear, right? We're very happy to announce, just for the listeners of the Vocal Minority Report, that Loot Crate is offering an opportunity for you guys to save 10% on any new subscription. Try lootcrate.com/vocal. You got to enter that promo code BRIDGE10 for your 10% savings. And I know listeners of this show, obviously we got Blackgirlnerds. We got all kinds of people who listen to this show. Shout out to our girl, Jamie Broadnax. Shout out to my man, Rob Moreau from The Black Guy Who Tips. I think they fall in that sphere. We've had David Barkertley on the show, a sci-fi guy. I don't consider myself a geek or a gamer, but I do like Madden every now and then. And I've always rejected that geek term, but this isn't about me though. But see, the thing about Loot Crate though is it makes me feel cooler though, because basically they've got collectibles, apparel, tech gadgets, art, other gear, and unique one-of-a-kind gifts. It's pretty much like Comic-Con in a box. It's a monthly subscription service. For less than $20 a month, you can get 6 to 8 items. You can sign up at www.trylootcrate.com/vocal. Enter the code BRIDGE10 to get your 10% offer. It's very important that you use the code BRIDGE10. You go to www.trylootcrate.com/vocal. Enter the promo code BRIDGE10 for your 10% savings.
Previously on the Vocal Minority.
Are you part of the silent majority? Or are you part of the vocal minority?
Motherfuckers, go! Attention, please!
If America can be saved, and I don't know if it's too late, but it'll be through radio shows like this new kind.
This shit here feels like a whole entire world collapse.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers.
It's the vocal minority.
The revolution will be live.
Hey, what's good? Welcome to another episode of the Vocal Minority Report. It is your boy MC. As always, thanks for downloading. You could have downloaded any podcast in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. We have a really good show for you today. We have on Jamie Broadnax. She's a blogger, social media influencer, and founder of Blackgirlnerds. Her platform is a renowned platform and hub for all things nerdom when it comes to black girls specifically, but it's becoming much more than that, and we'll get into that. She's an interesting person with a great perspective. So we hope you enjoy the episode, and we'll talk to you after the show. Today's guest on the Vocal Minority Report is a blogger, social media addict, and the creator of Blackgirlnerds.com. Shonda Rhimes not only follows her on Twitter, but actually reads her tweets. And if that wasn't enough to make me jealous, she's met Larry Wilmore and Robin Thede. Talk about having everything. Jeez. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please welcome Jamie Broadnax to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
How's it going for you today?
It's going well. It's a Monday, so, you know. I wish it was Friday instead, but I will be optimistic that I will have a long weekend since 4th of July is coming up. So there you go.
So just a random question. How long do your days usually go? Are you kind of on social media or on the internet connected all day? Or
I'm on social media all day long. Yeah, all day and all night. And some of it's work. a lot of it's play, and a lot of it is just staying connected with the online community that I'm a part of. So I'm a big fan of Twitter. I love the platform. I love social media. I've always been a social media geek. So being plugged in for hours and hours at a time is effortless for me.
Cool. So let's start here with the whole Black Girl Nerd. Let's talk about that, and then I want to get into some other things if you don't mind. It's kind of weird because being Black for me was kind of always about being cool, right? At least in my mind, I wanted it to be synonymous with being cool, and so the term nerd or blurred that became popular, and obviously with your Black Girl Nerds, that's kind of a term that I kind of reject a little bit, or rejected initially. I mean, it took me a while to embrace the term, but just for the initial aesthetics of it, if you will. But it seems like you have done a whole lot more than embrace it. You've capitalized on it. You've energized it. Started a movement with that term. So starting there, tell us about Black Girl Nerds.
Black Girl Nerds is an online community for Black women to embrace their eccentricities and just feel empowered by all things that are part of this culture, from being a fan of comic books to being a gamer, cosplayer, someone that's into writing or reading sci-fi, fantasy, genre fiction, like whatever your forte is. This is a community that supports that promotes it. And it's something that I'm just really happy to be a part of, because I never saw places on the web that represented women that look like me in these spaces, in these nerd geek spaces. And, Black Girl Nerds really got started. It wasn't something where I just thought, okay, I'm going to create this movement. I kind of fell into this because I would go online and peruse information about my favorite comic books or just things that are part of geek culture. And I just noticed that there really wasn't a whole lot of conversations surrounding Black women and women of color within these spaces. And when I saw that nerd culture was becoming very popular and mainstream, I was just like, I wonder if there's like some place on the interwebs where I can find Black women that are just into nerdy things. Like, There's got to be something, because this is becoming really big. I'm seeing big network TV shows talking about nerds. I'm seeing comic book movies being made, and other websites that call themselves, nerds, that are featuring predominantly guys that are white. So I just went on Google, and when I put in the term, nothing came up. And I just thought that was very bizarre that Google, which is a place where you can find anything.
Right.
There's nothing that you can't find on Google.
Exactly.
But I couldn't find an image for it, and or a term for it. And as far as images go, I couldn't find that either, because when I did a Google image search, images of white women wearing black frames, glasses with black frames came up.
So they all look like what's a Blossom? Because obviously you're referencing Big Bang Theory, right? So is it
yes.
It's Maya Bialik? So they all look like her, right? Or Daria, you know what I mean?
Well, they did look like her, but a lot of them looked very, like pinup models.
Oh, okay, all right.
Pinup models with black glasses on, and I'm just like, even for white female nerds, I'm sure they were offended that that's the only image of what it is to be a white girl nerd. But yeah, I didn't see any images of us, and it was at that moment that I just went on. I had already had a Blogger account set up, so I just opened up another account under the name Black Girl Nerds and just started blogging about just my experiences. I've been a blogger off and on since 2007, so
okay.
I'm a writer, and it's just something that I've always done as more of a hobby than anything else, and that's really how the BGN platform started. And then later on, like actually very soon after it was published, within like 24 to 48 hours, I got an email from a writer, published author, who was like, I see your blog. I picked it up, and I would like to write content on there with you.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
it became more than just me and my personal musings, and it became other writers' perspectives. And that began to grow. Other contributors started volunteering to write content. And that's how it slowly evolved into this community that it is today.
What all is in the platform?
Aside from the website and the podcast, it's the social media networks, and that includes Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, all those fun sites. And also we have a YouTube channel. So a lot of the videos that we cover are comic book reviews. We've gone to some conventions. There's footage from that and on the channel. So that's really what the online community composes of.
Okay, cool. So you talked about you've been blogging since 2007, but before that, I tried to do a little research on you. You're pretty. There's not much out there on you. I don't like to do tons of research anyway. But there's not tons of you. But I want to have some sort of baseline, or through line. And but I did see something kind of interesting that you went to. Did you go to film school? You have a film degree, is that correct? And
Yes.
you've done some work on some feature films?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that was pre-BGN. So can you talk about that, your interest in films and kind of what you did around that?
So when I graduated from college, I have an undergraduate degree in mass communications, and then I went back to school and got my master's in film directing. And when I graduated from film school, I moved to New York City and worked on some films out there. I worked on a film called No Reservations with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Aaron Eckhart. I worked on a film.
I've seen that movie. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes,
that was my first gig out there. Actually, quick story.
Okay.
My very first gig when I moved out to New York City was a pilot that was shot for Fox. I think it was called The Wedding Planner or something wedding in it. I was only on there for a day as a production assistant, and the reason why is because I kind of told a white lie to get the job. I visited New York like once prior to that, and when the unit production manager had talked to me about getting the opportunity, because a friend of mine that I went to film school with referred me to the job and said, Jamie, went to film school with me. She's worked on some other movies and she'd be great. And my friend had moved to New York City.
Okay.
I went to film school in Virginia, which is where I'm from.
Go.
So at the time I was in Virginia, he was in New York. He referred me to this gig, and I was kind of explaining to him how I really want to move to New York and pursue a career in film. So he kind of helped me out with that. So she talked to me, and she's like, well, we need a driver to pick up scripts and drop off equipment and kind of be like a runner.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I know New York City like the back of my hand. I got this. I'm good.
Right.
So she hired me, and she was like, can you start next week? And I was just like, okay. So I told my mom, who I was living with at the time, Mom, I'm packing my bags. I'm going to New York, and took a Greyhound bus that night and drove up to New York City. Rode up to New York City on a Greyhound bus, stayed with my friend who lived in New York, crashed at his place. And when they hired me to go in that morning, I was late getting on the train. I didn't know my way. I had to go down to Brooklyn. I think it was Steiner Studios in Brooklyn is where they were filming this, or that's where the production team was
Okay.
housed. And so I had to take the train to Brooklyn. I didn't know that there was a difference between a local train and the express train.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So instead of taking the 2, I took the 1, and I was late on my first day.
Right.
So she was like, all right, willing to overlook that.
Right.
And then I had a cargo van given to me. When she gave me the keys, I was thinking I was going to drive in a Kia or some kind of
Right.
subcompact rental. And she handed me keys to a cargo van, and I'm like, wow. And I didn't know where I was going. I had to go somewhere in Queens, and then I had to go somewhere in Brooklyn. And
And this is pre GPS for your phone. You couldn't just whip out the iPhone this is like
pre GPS.
Right.
This was in 2003.
Oh, jeez.
So yes, way before then. And yeah, it was raining that day. It was actually sleeting that day. And I'm on the Queensboro Bridge and I have no idea where I'm going. So suffice it to say, they were like, I'm sorry, but don't come back tomorrow. Like that. Thank you for coming. We appreciate the time that you spent with us today, but we don't need you for the rest of this production. And so that was my first gig. And then after that, my friend, who was awesome in trying to get me gigs and also kind of wanted to push me out of his apartment so I could afford to have my own place.
Right.
He got me the gig on No Reservations. So I worked on that movie, and I worked on I Am Legend with Will Smith, and I also worked on Spider-Man 3.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Yeah.
And Pride and Glory was another film that I worked on.
Okay. All right. So
yeah.
So you're bona fide in the film world. I got your TV world.
Well,
right. Maybe not in that. Well. You've done more than me and probably most of us listening, so but and I can't drive around New York either, so I got you. Or that's funny. Okay.
Yeah, it was a very interesting experience. But then later on, I got a job working at the Tribeca Film Festival, doing the same kind of job, being a runner. I worked for the distribution department, which was a really cool job because I was responsible for delivering all of the alcoholic beverages to the different events.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, like we had a whole bunch of alcohol in our office and we were allowed to drink some of it. So that was cool. But I drove the cargo van. I had another cargo van gig and drove it all around New York City. And it was so much fun. I really enjoyed being an aggressive driver. And honking my horn,
right,
moving out the way.
You got a little bit of power. You're in a big white van. I got you.
Yeah,
right.
It's great. Like it's very interesting. Like in New York City, when you honk your horn, people actually move out the way. But in Virginia, like when you honk your horn, they just sit there like you don't, what? Like, a deer in headlights expression.
Well, yeah, I'm in Dallas, so I understand. It must be that below the Mason-Dixon line, that Southern mentality.
It must be. So, but yeah, I totally loved it. So I did eventually learn how to drive well in New York City after all, but it took some jobs to get there.
I got you. Where are you based out of now?
So I'm back in Virginia. Okay. Back in my hometown, okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. I thought so, but
I couldn't afford to live up there anymore.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been all over the place since living in New York. After I moved back home from New York, because I left New York because of the economic collapse of 2008. So I literally could not afford to live there anymore because I was laid off, and then moved back home to Virginia. And then I moved down to Wilmington, North Carolina for a few years, and then moved back up here.
Okay. But that's the hub for. So what? Speaking of that, what's the day-to-day life like of a social media influencer? We know you're plugged in all day, but it seems to me you run a small business. You're an entrepreneur. You've got this business, and you're more than just providing content. You're kind of like you're the talent, you're the product, you're the content, and the curator all in one. If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it's always weird to hear people refer to what I do as a small business because I don't feel like I'm earning small business money. But
right. But let me tell you why I say that. Right, I say that because that's my justification for my show, right? I'm projecting that onto you, hoping you feel the same way. I'm hoping that maybe I'm not a lone wolf out here thinking that maybe this grassroots, we're grinding, we're a startup, but as someone who has progressed like you have, and actually and has a wide sphere of influence that extends past just I know it extends past Black women, which was your initial intent, and I'm going to venture to guess, as do most things, it extends past racial lines too, because I say this all the time. People who listen to our show are going to know, our collective experience, is way more common than we're given credit for. A lot of times we're just asking to be included in the conversation, and like you said, when there's not one, then I guess we're going to have to make one and include that lane. But anyway, but let's get back to life of a social media influencer. I cut you off when you were saying when somebody calls it a small business. So how do you view it, either small business wise or entrepreneur wise, or just all those hats you have to wear?
I mean, right now, I would like this to be a business. Like, that is my short-term goal for Blackgirlnerds, because I'm doing what I'm doing while balancing a 9-to-5, and it's very challenging from day to day because I am finding myself doing a lot of the work that I do with BGN while I'm on my lunch break at work, and
I feel you, sister. I feel you, sister. God,
and when there's spurts of time where it gets slow, so it's something that I really want to focus on full time. I feel like this platform could even be bigger than where it is now if I did have the means to devote it on a full-time basis. And I would love to make it a place where it can have funding, where I can pay a staff, because everybody that's a part of this community, including myself, we don't get paid. The money, the revenue that I do earn from BGN is revenue that I have put out myself, and I'm still in the red. So,
right.
It is something that in the short term I would love to have as a business, but I'm definitely operating it as if it is a business, having a team of people that's doing work, that's putting out content, that's doing it consistently on a daily basis. We have a weekly podcast. So it definitely, the machine runs as if this is a business, but it would be nice for it to be like an official thing. And I think it's something that will happen over time, but it's happening at its own pace, and I don't want to rush it. I just want things to happen naturally and organically, because I feel like, things happen in the seasons that they're in for a reason. And if it's not my season for this to be a business yet, then there's a reason for it. So I'm just going to sit back and wait until things happen naturally. And I'm pretty blessed. I mean, I've gotten a lot accomplished and done a lot in 4 years than most bloggers have done. I mean, I see bloggers out there that have been running their sites and their social media accounts longer than me,
right,
and have half of the amount of followers that I have on Twitter, have half of the amount of reach that I have. But so noticing those accomplishments and focusing on that is what I look to, instead of seeing or looking at it from a perspective where I just haven't reached the goal of monetizing this the way I want to yet. So I always kind of try to look to the positive and not focus so much on, well, I'm just not there yet kind of mentality.
And it's nice to hear from someone who, because obviously there's different levels of success, right? So, and from the outside looking in, some folks, the struggle or the work or the effort or even the payoff, no one knows that, they don't know each individual's, what they're yielding from that, you know what I mean? Or even your sphere of influence, it's not like they give you, $20 for every follower you have, right? Or if they do, let me know. But
well, we just started a Patreon, so that has been incredibly helpful, especially now since we're traveling to San Diego next month, and I've been able to expense paying for part of my airfare, as well as the other contributors, Connie and Cynthia, who are flying out from New York, their airfare to get out there. Because it's expensive. I mean, it cost, BGN hasn't reached a point yet where we have sponsors. I would love that. That is something that I've been trying to get for a while. But until we do, we have to pay for our travel. We have to pay for housing, all of those things that come with going from one side of the country to the next. So that costs money. And I finally was finally convinced to do a Patreon. I was kind of hesitant to do it because I feel weird about asking for money. It's just not something I've always been comfortable with. But,
well, yeah. Us black people are prideful people, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'm grateful that this community is generous enough to be like, Jamie, you need to do this, and finally opened up a Patreon. So that has been helpful so far, and we've only started that for the last few months, and it's been it's definitely been incredibly helpful. And I would encourage anybody out there, don't put yourself in a situation where you feel guilty or you feel like, no, I don't want to ask or peddle for money. Like, don't put yourself in that space, because people are consuming your content for free. If they're entertained by your content and it's free, it's okay to ask for donations to keep it going. So a lot of if people are following you and they're fans of your work, they are going to support you in every way that they can. And even if it's a couple of bucks a month, that can definitely be enough to help you if you have a pretty big audience, or even a small audience of loyal followers. So yeah, I just want to encourage that, because it took me a while to get to that point where I had to, kind of jump into those waters and set up the Patreon.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of my questions for you. Your opinion on crowdsourcing, because you do have such an engaged following, because your connection that you have with your, I don't even know what the term is. What is it? Is it fans? Is it followers? Like, do you ever categorize it, or the right term to use? But the people who are part of your community, your connection it appears to be really deep, and you appear to be very engaged. So I guess my question is, how important is that overall relationship for you?
It's very important. It's why I'm on Twitter all the time. That's why I stay connected. And, even taking additional initiatives like sending out a newsletter and just keeping everybody updated on what we're doing and what's going on. It's important to stay connected with the people that are consuming your content, because these are people that are loyal to your work, loyal to your brand, and you want to nurture them. You want to keep that relationship going. So, yeah, being on Twitter, it's a win-win for me, because I'm doing what I love anyway, which is being on Twitter all day. I really do enjoy being on the platform. And then while I'm doing that, I'm actually fostering relationships with the followers that consume the content that I put out there.
Right.
Whether it's in the form of blog posts that give me traffic to go back to my site, whether it be the podcast, having discussions. We just had a podcast that dropped this past weekend, and it was a very controversial subject, and engaging with the folks that listened to that episode and talking about that on social media. That's important. I don't know. I guess I'm different from some other brands where they don't really connect or engage with their followers or fans. I use the term interchangeably. Okay. But I'm different in the fact that I love having these conversations.
Right.
And it's interesting too, because I'm not really an introvert, an extrovert. So I'm not really that social outside of the four corners of the internet.
Right.
But I'm a social media extrovert, and the fact that I love to have these water cooler conversations on Twitter. It's very important.
And isn't that, well, you probably just hit the nail on the head right there, because I would venture to guess that a lot of your community fans / followers, whatever, they would identify the same way. You know what I mean? Where it's, they're not necessarily going to raise their hand or be the focal point of that conversation around the water cooler, or, at the school or in the day room or wherever you're at. But when you do have that freedom of those four corners of Twitter or the interwebs and all that, it does provide a different level of, you can kind of be yourself, and really kind of just be yourself and not worry about it. I think that's what I hear you saying. And I would assume that's why it's so important, because, I see the people that, tweet you, and I can only imagine that, your inbox is, your DMs, it's full of people, who have that deep connection, but who you talked about your additional content creators and your current collaborators now. And I see you looking for additional content creators to contribute to your site and your YouTube channel. So what's the thought there? Is that ever difficult when, since you do have such engaged followers and fans and people come to you, like, is it to receive the content, to curate the content? Like, is that ever difficult? Because, are there hurt feelings or, making those decisions about what to share? How do you go about that? And is it solely you making these decisions about what is shared on BGN?
I am the one that makes the decision of who is going to be a writer, who is going to be a podcaster, who's going to be a vlogger for BGN. I'm pretty lax. I probably could be a little bit more.
Well, let me holler at you then, because I got this great podcast that you should check out. Look at it. I really want to give opportunities to women that just haven't had an outlet or voice in the spaces that they maneuver in. So that's really what my mission is. And occasionally I will get a pitch for an article where the article is just not good. And I will give them constructive criticism about it. Okay. Believe it or not, it doesn't happen that often. Does that mean you're just super nice, or does that mean that
I really am? Because I'm not, I want good quality content. Like, I want really good quality content, but at the same time, I want to give people opportunities. Right. A lot of the women that have contributed to this website, and men, it's not just women that contribute, but also men, but a lot of the contributors of BGN have gotten writing gigs because of it, paid writing gigs, and on, major publications. So, and I had one podcaster email me the other day saying that she records all of her episodes that she's done with me, and she's using them on her resume and sending them out to get jobs. So people use this opportunity because the platform has gotten so much notoriety, because the brand is being recognized and so many prolific people are following it. And Shonda Rhimes acknowledging Black Girl Nerds, I think that's a huge thing for the platform since that happened.
It is. That's why I put it in the intro. Like, it's a huge thing for sure.
It really was a game changer. So
I mean, hey, I bought every woman in my family one of her books, and she ain't never mentioned my name. So, so yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't see her dropping names often. So I was shocked when I got the tweet, because she had tweeted out, here's my list of Twitter favorites in Marie Claire magazine, and tagged me in it. And that's how I found out about the article. So, she didn't send me a private message and give me a heads up. Like, I had no idea. So it's shocking. So I use that opportunity to my advantage to, when I pitch people about Black Girl Nerds, or when people that work for Black Girl Nerds are trying to get jobs, saying, well, Black Girl Nerds have been recognized by Shonda Rhimes, and Jamie's been featured on the Melissa Harris Perry show. And this is good because we're still in a space where everybody's doing this as a volunteer. People are carving out their time to contribute to this. At least the benefit that they get out of it is getting to another job where it is paid, or, getting an opportunity somewhere else where they can be a content creator, and then they can have a following and a group of fans because of their association with BGN. So it's a win-win situation, and I'm glad that people are getting a lot of opportunities out of it.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, the idea that you're so open to share alike and be able to expand, because it's a blessing that you have reached some level of maturity in the early stages of your season, if you will. So
it's and I think the fact that I am not a spring chicken helps, because
you ain't. You want to get super? Can we get super personal? Like what? How?
I've been honest with my age. I'm 35 years old.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, I bring that up to say that had I started BGN in my early 20s, I don't think I would be as responsible as I am when it comes to working with people, and I would get really offended if a relationship goes sour, and I think I would be a lot more selfish in the way I handled things than I do now. I'm a lot more wiser. I've had experience. I've dealt with rejection. That's another thing.
Right.
So it really does matter when things don't happen in your season. And I'm glad there's a reason why BGN is flourishing now at the ripe old age of 35. Let me stop, because the other day somebody, when I was live tweeting the BET Awards, called me ageist for using the term old. I don't know. Twitter is very special, but anyway.
Yes, it is. But you know what though? But when you earn revenue or with your sponsorship, like at what place are you there? And then as far as like the companies that would pay you to be an actual influencer because of your number of followers / fans, like how does that work?
So we don't get any sponsorships from people like Midroll. I've reached out to Midroll. They haven't responded, probably because I'm not making $100K. I have gotten some ads by way of people that follow me on Twitter. What I do is send out tweets saying if you are interested in advertising with the podcast to contact me directly. Had a brief relationship with Rosarium Publishing. There are people that want to promote their Kickstarter. I've had folks run ads on BGN for that. So I kind of done a more grassroots, homegrown way of trying to get advertisers rather than going through a third party like Midroll. But yeah, and then there's other ways to earn revenue as a social media influencer. There are spaces like I personally work with Blog Her, She Knows Media Now, the Clever Girls Network, there's Sway Group. So these are companies that pay people with large followings to tweet about products.
Okay.
And you can simply do a Google search and find out there's probably more than just the ones I named, but you can do that as well. And then, of course, you can always run ads on your website, which most people know how to do that now. So, I mean, those are the ways that I've been able to try to get revenue. Just keep in mind, you're not going to be making it rain, because if that was the case, I wouldn't have the 9 to 5, but it helps here and there.
I understand. You don't have to tell me. I know you ain't talking directly just to me, but yeah, no, I understand. It's a slow grind for sure. But which is why, with you specifically, because you are so diversified, if you will, and I don't want to overstate it, but I also don't want to undersell the amount of work and effort that you put in being plugged in daily and curating this content and finding those contributors, because that's one thing that I do love about you and BGN is that you don't specifically narrowcast. I mean, I guess let me rephrase that. You do specifically narrowcast based on what I've heard today, but your appeal is so broad, as we mentioned earlier. So, it's kind of like despite the name or in spite of the name, you know what I mean? You're still able to have that broad approach, and and like you said, you do accept men, their perspective and articles and content or whatever. So I think that's important, because that gets into my other question about, are you familiar with the term identity media?
I'm not.
I wasn't either until a friend of mine hit me to. There's an episode of Note to Self. It's a NPR podcast. But that was part of what they were talking about last week, and basically what I gathered from that was it's when your tone or your presentation is targeted or very specific to a certain type of a certain market or whatever, certain type of people. Obviously for you, black girls, nerds. I mean, that's uber specific. Then I guess there's some criticism from the media, air quotes, about that identity media and, having to defend them, being critical of that tone or that perspective or that presentation. And so I'm just curious if you've ever dealt with, obviously not that specific term, but if you've dealt with any of that, or if that is even a thought for you when it comes to what you do and how you look at things.
I mean, people are critical of Black Girl Nerds because of the term, but it's few and far between. For the most part, people that go to the website or follow the account, they get it, and they understand that it's an inclusive community. So I don't get a whole lot of backlash for Black Girl Nerds.
Okay.
And if I do, it's from trolls. It's from people that just want to rattle you for no reason. But I don't, it really hasn't happened. And I'm grateful for that, because it was pretty scary when I decided to call the website that, because I didn't want to be exclusive. And I immediately put up like a mission statement to let people know this is not an exclusive site. We are, open to everybody. But it's for us. It's by us, for us. So yeah, I'm grateful that I haven't gotten to a point where I'm getting that kind of criticism. Probably like when I go super mainstream and then, Bill O'Reilly on Fox News is talking about me.
Right.
then you'll hear those conversations. But for right now, people are pretty cool.
Okay, well, good. All right, well, that's good. I mean, as long as you're not, because obviously that's the thing about the social media, the anonymity, and then just like as we talked about, with that freedom that you feel, and a lot of, and all of us feel, either behind the mic or behind the letters on Twitter, it's certainly a breeding ground for a lot of negativity. So I'm glad that you're not falling into that. So, well, cool. All right. Because more of that question though was just to try to see if you ever have any idea or internal struggle with pandering versus reaching people where they are. I mean, because you're very specific in what you do. It's, it's specific to race. It's specific to gender. Mm-hmm. So, do you worry about the margins?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. No. Anyway, I guess my other question to that is, do you feel a certain responsibility carrying this rather unique torch when it comes to how you identify, or how the people who listen to you identify?
No, because people have been pretty supportive. So I don't get that kind of backlash, believe it or not. I mean, the kind of backlash I get is people trying to check my nerddom.
Okay, all right.
Trying to see if I know the history of the X-Men over the last 3 decades. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I deal with as a woman in the nerd community. But I don't really deal with a whole lot of people saying, well, why do you always talk about things that are, for Black women, and why are you only focused on or why are you only focused on Black women or Black things? Like, I don't get that kind of backlash, because that's what you're going to expect from this site. So why are you even having this conversation with me if this is something that's offensive to you? And like I said before, the people that do occasionally tweet to me those things are people that are just, either racist or just trolls. And luckily it doesn't happen that often.
Okay, well, it's good that you don't experience that. So who's the most interesting person, or what's the most interesting experience or interaction you've had, other than talking to me, of course, but you're supposed to laugh there, Damon. God dang it. Come on. We've been talking for an hour. You don't know my cues. God,
sometimes when you laugh like that, people will get offended, because it's like, are you laughing at me or with me? So
no, I never get it. I expect to be the butt. Right. No. Either way, like, I'm good either way. Like, just give me the laugh. Yeah. Right. Yes.
Okay.
All right. But yeah. No.
So who is my favorite guest that I've interviewed? Is that the question?
No, it's, well, I guess kind of, but it's also like most interesting experience or interaction, because I mean, it could be
most experience. Okay. So most interesting interaction that I've had since I've been running BGN.
Correct.
Okay. I would have to say meeting the fans.
Okay. Okay. Now that's pandering right there, but go ahead.
No, really, I know that sounds very trite, but I had a great experience at Geek Girl Con, I think it was, and a fan came up to me and she just started crying, and that was a really surreal experience, because when you are having that much of an impact on someone where they're flooded with emotion, to the point where they're crying and just thanking you with really tears of joy, in her case, for having a space that reflects women that look like her. It's just confirmation that the work that I've been putting in and toiling day and night is actually have some meaning. It's making an impact on another human being. So that's really been the most profound and interesting experience for me since doing BGN. I mean, all of the cool accolades, getting recognized by celebrities and being on TV shows and traveling across the country is great. But when you meet someone that says, because of you, I've started a cosplay group. Because of you, I feel comfortable going into a comic book store and reading comics and talking about it with other people in the store. When at first I didn't like to go out and do those things, because you're actually making that kind of impact on somebody. It just blows my mind. I almost get emotional thinking about it, because I'm just like, wow, I cannot believe I'm reaching people in this way. So yes, those are the things that really inspire me the most, and I get the most visceral reaction from, is the one-on-one interaction with the fans.
Yeah, it's man, you just touched me with that response. I wasn't.
It's touching. It really truly is. I mean, I had a 12-year-old girl email me just saying how much she's inspired. I had a girl who's in high school, and she said she's finally coming out of her shell. The fact that I'm like making an impact on the babies, like the next generation, that's crazy to me. But that's what keeps me going. Like, that is something, just that alone is the reason why I have to convince myself every day, even on days where I'm tired and exhausted, or even days when I feel like I want to just give up and just go back to having a normal life. Because my life isn't so normal right now, but you know, just having those kinds of sentiments, it makes it all worth it.
All right. I guess on that note, I'll ask you one more question. I'll let you get the heck out of here. Enjoy the rest of your night. But what would your fans, community members, followers, whatever, be surprised to know about you? Like, I don't know how. First, let me ask you two questions. So your 9-to-5 gig, do you talk about that? Like, what's your 9-to-5 gig? You don't have to be uber specific, but like, what do you do?
Yeah, I work at a law firm.
Oh, okay, cool. So. All the time. So, all right, work at a law firm, and then, so are you single, dating? Like, do you talk about that kind of stuff? Like, you know, like, is that too personal? Because someone asked me to ask you. Like, full disclosure, that's not my. I mean, I'm curious, but literally someone did DM me, ask me that question. So I'm blaming it on someone else when I ask you this.
Got it. I am single. I am not dating. I invest all of BGN into my life right now. Okay. So yeah. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. It's not that I don't want to make time for it, but it's just, again, the season conversation. I just haven't. I'm in a season of my life where I'm building, and hopefully once this platform is built to a place where I'll be able to carve out extra time to be social and actually deal with a great work-life balance, then I would love to actually be in a relationship. But for right now, yeah, single, not dating.
Okay. All right. Well, now everyone knows. Okay, cool. Then, all right. So then last thing is, what's next for you? What's next for BGN? What's next for Jamie? What's on the horizon?
Well, the only thing I'm focusing on is like what's happening in the next few weeks.
Okay, all right. Well, what's happening in the next few weeks then? All right.
In the next few weeks, we're going to San Diego.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay, the Comic-Con, right? The con, right?
So that's going to be happening, and there's going to be a lot of coverage that we look forward to providing. I'm going to be on a few panels. There's going to be a meetup. So that's really what's on the horizon right now. I mean, in terms of long-term stuff, I don't look that far ahead. I live my life organically, and I just let things happen naturally on its own. So whatever happens, happens. But this year, Comic-Con, Dragon Con, New York Con, that is what's on the horizon for BGN. And then just doing what I'm doing on a daily basis, which is the editorials on the site, the weekly podcast, and the daily rants and raves on Twitter.
All right, so how can people find you on all of those platforms there? Is it?
You can find me on @Blackgirlnerds on Twitter. I do operate the account exclusively. Or you can check me out at Jamie Broadnax, my personal Twitter. I don't hang out there too much, but I do always follow back on that account. Also, you can check blackgirlnerds.com. That's the website. We have a newsletter. I encourage you to subscribe. That way you are caught up to date on everything that we're doing. And also, you can catch us on YouTube. There's a lot of channels there. Not channels, but there's a lot of videos on the channel.
Right.
And I would encourage you to subscribe on YouTube. And also, we're on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher, which is where the podcast is. And certainly would encourage you to subscribe and rate us on iTunes. And if you are so willing to donate, we are on Patreon. So go to patreon.com/blackgirlnerds. And also you can rock our merchandise. We have t-shirts at blackgirlnerds.com/t-shirts.
Awesome. All right. Hey, Jamie, I really appreciate it for sure. You could do one more thing for me and just say, just introduce yourself and say, I'm a part of the vocal minority. That would be awesome.
Sure. My name is Jamie Broadnax of Black Girl Nerds, and I am with the Vocal Minority Podcast.
All right. We hope you enjoyed that episode. Make sure you follow us on Twitter @Vocal Report, Facebook, The Vocal Minority Report, and some subscribe, leave a rating and review on iTunes. We'll holler at you next time. Peace.